questions. And so thank you all for joining us today for our special presentation and special meeting of Partners in Flight Science. I'm happy that we have two of my CWS colleagues joining us today. Veronica Aponte, who is the Canadian Breeding Bird Survey Coordinator, and Adam Smith, who's a biostatistician at CWS, who we sometimes lovingly refer to as the Canadian John Sauer. So they are going to be co-presenting today for us on the new BBS strategic plan, and I will pass it over to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I wonder if John gets called the American Adam. Anyway, so thank you, first of all, Alaine, for inviting us to talk to you guys about the BBS, the new BBS strategic plan. It's great that you invited us, because one of the actions in our action plan, which I'll get into the action plan versus the strategic plan, but one of the actions in our action plan is to the need to establish stronger connections with BBS users and tailoring our analysis and our products to meet our user needs. So as part of that, obviously engaging with PIF is super critical. So perfect. Perfect to be here. So I will get right into it. I'm going to give a really brief overview of the BBS program, because I think most of you, if not all of you, know the program better than I do. But essentially, it's a program that's been around since 1966. It's international in scope, with mainly the US and Canadian participation, with a little bit of Mexico, not super successfully, but I'll get into that a little bit afterwards. Every year, over 3,000 skilled biologists and volunteers participate in the program. And that includes, folks like myself, but also the observers and their assistants that we shouldn't forget to shout out. They run over 150,000 point counts every year. Each route is comprised of 50 point counts, so there's about 3,000 or over 3,000 routes that are run every year. It's one of the most productive citizen science projects in terms of the scientific output. So there are, on an annual basis, more and more publications and studies coming out that use BBS data in their study. And that's because the database is big. It has over 95 million bird sightings, and it provides a nearly continental wide picture of the health of North American bird populations, and that's for over 600 species. So over the years, the number of routes and observers has increased, but as you can see from this graph, it has plateaued a little bit. And that may be due to a variety of reasons, different hypotheses that we would need to test, but it could be that we're running out of routes where routes exist to fit BBS routes. We're running out of highly skilled observers. Well, I don't think we're running out of, but we haven't been able to tap into some skilled observers that are out there. We haven't found them. The BBS produces not only the data, but it also produces the results. As you know, Adam and John produce their own set of BBS trend results with different models. And those can be found either through the Canada.ca website or the USGS science-based platforms. And I think Adam is, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a publication in the works that should be published soon on the new R package, BBS Bayes, that includes all the different models, or at least several of them, including some of the older models. And so you can play around with the data analyses if you're interested and are savvy. Right, Adam? You're nodding yes? Okay, cool. So the BBS and PIF obviously are intricately linked, I think, in several ways. In one big way is through the Avian Conservation Assessment Database. 63% of population trends of all birds come from BBS or are derived from BBS data, and 73% of land birds. 82% of population size estimates are derived from BBS data. And that's the latest database, well, the one that's on the PIF website. Obviously, it's a great program, but with all greatness, there's also, you know, challenges and issues. And we've always been, I think, maybe a little bit too forthright, possibly at times, about some of the issues that the BBS program has. But I think it's important to be self-critical and also try to improve. And so these are some of the things that have come out over the years of the issues related to the BBS program. So geographic coverage, obviously we know that there's not a lot of routes in the boreal or in the Arctic. There's not a lot of roads, and so not a lot of routes. In higher elevations, it's you know, there's also not a lot of roads. And in Mexico, the BBS survey protocol doesn't quite fit the infrastructure that's in Mexico and the social situation that's there. So we haven't been able to have a full continental coverage. There have been changes and evolving needs in the conservation community. Wildlife monitoring technologies have improved over the last few years or last couple of decades, I guess. And we need to be able to integrate and leverage those new technologies and take advantage of them. We've stayed a little bit in the Stone Age when it comes to our visual outputs, and so that not only is it maybe not visually appealing, but it's also maybe not as accessible as it could be. And there are some concerns around aging volunteers, but at least in Canada, there doesn't seem to be an annual deficit, but there isn't also, like I pointed out earlier, there isn't also growth in volunteer numbers. So with these things in mind, we thought maybe it's a good time to look at the program and see where we want to move the program forward into the future. So last year, back in September of 2019, we attended a 3-day workshop at Patuxent that involved roughly 30 people representing a variety of different organizations, including obviously CWS, USGS, CONABIO, Cornell, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and other state wildlife organizations. And a subset of those 30 people became what we call the writing team. They took everything that was discussed and sort of agreed on during the workshop and put it down on paper into a plan. And that was finalized in the spring of this year. And then the plan underwent a rigorous multi-stage review process through the USGS and was finally published at the 11th hour right before the BBS symposium at the NAOC on August 13th of this year. So we have the strategic plan, and I'll get into what's actually in the strategic plan that's published and readily available to the public. But we also have the action plan, which I mentioned earlier. The action plan, while we will share it openly, it's not a secret document or anything. It's more the intended audience of the action plan is more internal. It's more us, the people who are in BBS operations or the partners who are going to decide to join us in helping to achieve the goals set out in the strategic plan. So the strategic plan has 3 overarching goals with strategic objectives under each goal. And then the action plan delves into specific actions that will contribute to each of those strategic objectives. So very hierarchical, but I think it puts things in a framework that allows us to be able to check in, like, are we doing what we said we were going to do, and where does what we do fit in to the overall picture? And so that process, the action plan, is nearly finished. It should be finished in the next month or so. And it was developed through the BBS operations, some working groups which were established during the workshop, and additional people who added themselves on afterwards and decided to join, which was great. So we had the protocol development group, which was co-chaired by Adam and Colleen Handel. The outreach and communication group, which was led by me, and then the partnership group, which is more of a partnership exploration working group, which is more senior manager level people who will use the plan to get more people to join this partnership. But yeah, you'll understand more, I guess, when I get into the actual strategic plan. So this is a living document that we will check in every year to see that it's still in line with what we're doing, and what we're doing is still in line with what's in the plan, etc. So the strategic plan itself, for the first time, the BBS program decided that it should write down on paper what its vision is. While obviously it had a vision and an overall direction that it was always going, or a goal that it was always trying to achieve, it never really wrote it down on paper in a cohesive way that a group of people agreed on. So the vision of the where we want to go is to be the authoritative source of information on long-term change in North American bird populations and widely used in management and conservation. Then the mission provides really a summary overview of what the whole plan is about. And the mission is to inform avian conservation and management efforts by collecting data on breeding bird populations across North America using a variety of standardized protocols, and delivering scientifically credible measures of the status, trends, and environmental associations of birds at multiple geographic scales in collaboration with partners. Quite the mouthful. I'm never going to memorize that, but I think that's fine. So like I said earlier, there are 3 overarching goals, and under each goal, we have strategic objectives. These aren't the official goals and strategic objectives. I've simplified the wording to make it easier to present. But if you want to know the original wording, please go check out the plan and read it. And yeah, but I think the overall ideas are there. So the first goal really is about making the BBS the best that it could be by managing first through strategic objective, the first one, by managing bird and stop level spatial data more effectively, by filling geographic gaps, by maintaining and improving coverage through participation, and then finally by continuing to improve the analysis so that it reaches its full potential. That's in a nutshell. And I've highlighted the areas where I think there are links with the work that PIF does and is interested in. For the second goal, it's about making sure that the BBS is, for lack of a better word, mainstream within the bird community. So making its data and products more accessible, and then publicizing the program really well so that our brand is recognized, and it's known that a lot of the work that we do in the bird conservation community is thanks to the data that the BBS provides. Then the third goal has to do with being able to achieve those goals 1 and 2. We need to ensure that we have the resources, but also possibly even expand our resources, either internally in our agencies that are managing the BBS, but through partnerships. So that's a brief overview, I guess, of the plan. If you want to read it in more detail, like I said, go check it out. But Adam now is going to talk a little bit more about how the plan will have an impact into the future of how we'll be able to estimate population trends and possibly population estimates themselves.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Veronica. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff in the plan, and Veronica just did a wonderful overview of it, but it really is, I think, a really well thought out plan. The action plans themselves, there's lots of detail there, but I think Veronica and I wanted to highlight a couple of the key aspects that I think are we think are gonna be particularly interesting for PIF. Yeah, and most of those stem from, that's the reason I'm here, most of them I think stem from actions 1D strategic goals 1B and 1D, which are the sort of analytical and sampling, field sampling related goals in the, oh, look at that, there they are. And so we're talking about filling gaps in coverage in 1B, and thinking about model development, and the model development aspects that I think are really important to PIF are the integrating complementary data. So integrating across many different data sets, essentially the BBS becoming less about specifically the BBS and more about understanding the population status of birds, and specifically trying to better meet those stakeholder needs. And I think in this context, where we're really going to see something really different in the future, is that we're aiming at integrating information on trends and population size. And so the PIF-based population estimates from the BBS we're at a point analytically speaking, and I think data, as far as the data are concerned, where we can start to integrate those two processes, integrate those estimates of trends with the estimates of the population size. And a lot of this is work that's jumping off from the 3 Billion Birds paper and some of the analytical work that Pete Blanchard and everyone on that team was working on. It's a really exciting time. So anyways, back to the slides that I was actually supposed to speak to. So all of that to say, we're probably all quite familiar with the fact that the BBS is a roadside survey, and it samples the landscape in areas where there are roads. It does a pretty good job of it. And this little colored map you're looking at here is really just essentially an estimate of the proportion of the surrounding landscape that is within that sort of vaguely defined 400-meter limit of the roadsides that are available to be sampled by the BBS. And so in northeastern and mostly in eastern North America, in the populated portions, we're getting most of the landscape, but everywhere else we're not. And this map's a perfect example. In Mexico, we don't even know. We could do the math I did here in the GIS work, or that we did here in the GIS work in Mexico as well. Of course, we just haven't done that. Next slide, please. So yeah, so there are gaps. The key gaps are in the north in Mexico, and in the sort of montane and off-road regions in the west and Midwest. And so one of the most important goals in the strategic plan is to fill those geographic gaps. And so one of the key things we're going to do to fill those gaps is to start off with is to collaborate with design monitoring programs that already exist in some of those gap regions. So the IMBCR program, some of the work that the Canadian Wildlife Service folks have been doing in Canada's boreal region, some of the work that Colleen Handel and others in Alaska have been, the work they've been conducting up there. And then the ProAlis program is one option for potential collaborations in the future that we're exploring as well in Mexico. And it's a really neat program that I won't go into the details of here, but it's at least on a practical level, it's eBird based. So we're going to collaborate with existing programs, and we're also going to build. Yeah, sorry, that next slide would be great. And then we're also going to build additional collaborations with other programs to expand the annual surveying. And so one really clear example, one really obvious example that is on our work plan is to initiate discussions and formal collaborations with eBird as one mechanism to expand additional surveying protocols beyond the roadside BBS sampling frame and get into the off-road. And this is, again, these are plans at this point. There are and you know, plans to build plans. And so I can't get into much more of the details of it at this point, but that's something that's really front and center in our work plan. And the next slide. And so the trick to integrating information across all of those different programs is that each one of those programs has a unique field method. For the most part, they're all, well, in this case, they're almost all point count based. But the locations of those point counts, the timing of those point counts, both in the duration and the habitat types and the selection of those point counts, all vary. And so in order to integrate information across all those different survey programs, we need a way to account for the variations in detectability of birds that are likely relevant across those different field protocols. And this is just a little, a figure stolen from Daniel Yip's work in the Condor, looking at detectability on roads and off roads in, as otherwise consistent sampling conditions in the boreal. And so being on the road makes a difference, as one example. But there are other, perfect, thank you. There are other conditions that we also need to be able to account for, and there's a little list in orange here of some of those really what we think at this point I think are the most important conditions that we need to account for, whether they're on a roadside, the vegetation structure around you, the time of day, the time of year, the duration of the count, the radius of that count. And Peter Solomos and others in the Boreal Avian Modeling project here in Canada have done some absolutely brilliant work in coming up with analytical ways of integrating across many different field protocols using essentially offsets in that are estimated that account for all of these, that can account for all of these conditions that you see in orange here, and generate estimates of detectability or offsets of detectability that can be then used in a subsequent model, a trend model, or a population size model to account for those factors, using not only data that would allow us to explicitly estimate these detectability functions, but also data that don't. And so we can put ourselves in a situation where we could estimate or account for detectability even with the data sets that wouldn't otherwise allow us to do that. So we could integrate BBS counts with eBird counts, with IMBCR counts, with the Alaskan Elms project counts, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. And so we have a little collaboration going on right now that we've just sort of started over the course of this past summer, and you should be hearing more about this in the near future. Some of you may have already heard a little bit about this NAPOPS or NAPOPS collaboration. The POP stands for point count offsets for population sizes, and the NA is North American. We have to do a little shuffling to get something pronounceable. And so, so this collaboration is compiling data, essentially building on BAM's process, the Boreal Avian Modeling Project's process of compiling data across many different data sets and generating these estimates, these offsets for detectability that will allow us to integrate data across many different programs. And next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I should say in that last map that we were looking at there, that's just a sort of a current coverage map for the NAPOPS program. And so the darker colors are where we've got more data, and we're working with the AKN and some Fish and Wildlife folks who were chatting with just recently to try and fill some of those gaps. And then also we're going to be hopefully, as soon as we're yeah, as we move through this progress, we're also hoping to fill in some of those gaps in Mexico as well. Okay, next slide, please. And so really the BBS, in terms of that analytical component and the survey component, I think the future of the BBS is a future that's about collaboration and cooperation across all of these programs, both in a sampling frame in terms of their sampling efforts, how we get out in the field and how often and where, et cetera. As well as from an analytical standpoint in terms of producing estimates of trends and population sizes, it's really the future is about collaboration. And that's the sort of, I think, the theme that's driving that analytical work plan right now. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so just an acknowledgement slide. All the people involved with producing the plan, obviously all the volunteers every year who run BBS routes, and all the regional coordinators who help recruit and coordinate the BBS in the regions. So yeah, thanks Adams for helping present, and if you guys have any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Veronica and Adam. That was really great. And thank you for joining us for that update. Obviously, as you noted, BBS is a very important tool for us at Partners in Flight. And so it's good to hear what the plans are for the future. So I'll open the floor up for questions or comments. We can start with just, I'll just leave it open. And if it gets unwieldy, we'll use the hand raising feature. Or you can use chat too if you prefer.
This is Chuck Hunter. I had a couple of questions. One is, and I haven't been kept up to date on this, or I haven't kept myself up to date on this, but Puerto Rico had a breeding bird survey program for a number of years. I'm not sure it's continuing, but is that also part of the strategy?
Yeah, so I heard about that very superficially from Keith and Dave from the USGS. Unfortunately, I don't have, yeah, I'm trying to remember what they said exactly when we discussed that, but I think I'd have to, I don't want to give an answer that would be,
okay,
that would be false. So I think we'd have to follow up with them to see what their plans are, but presumably, yes.
Yeah, it would be the Puerto Rican Ornithological Society that would be leading that. And I should know that. I just, for some reason, hadn't thought about it for a while. But yeah, it would be good to make sure they're included as well. The other question I had, you know, given ongoing long-term debates about trends and road, off-road, as well as abundance, road, off-road, but for the most part, is when it comes to actually trends, is it still the consensus that breeding bird survey is reflecting landscape level changes, even if it doesn't necessarily reflect abundance, actual abundance?
So I'll jump on that. So that, in a nutshell, yes. And that the extent to which that assumption is met in practice depends on the species, depends on the region. Certainly, you know, the BBS, looking at that first little gridded off colored map that I was showing, you know, in the central eastern portion of the continent, we have, you know, the BBS does a brilliant job of covering almost every inch of the landscape. And so that assumption is almost certainly met for the vast majority of the species and regions in that portion of the continent. Mm-hmm. And then as you get further into the data sparse regions, then that assumption is clearly less and less well supported. Right. That's part of the reason why we're thinking of these as gaps. We have the north, the south, and the off-road. And we're trying to, so we're hoping to fill all of those gaps in a coherent way going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So Cornell is starting to do trends through eBird, and I think a lot of the Cornell models are very habitat based, and they're doing quite a lot of modeling. Have any of the BBS folks looked in detail into that and see if there's some of that that can be adapted for a BBS trends?
Yeah, and so that's the work that Daniel and Allison and everyone at eBird have been doing with their trend analyses is just brilliant. It's a really exciting time, I think, and that so we have a couple of projects that are in sort of the I can think of it as the kind of BBS wheelhouse. Hopefully those two wheelhouses are just going to get together and will all be part of the same process in the future. But right now we are working on some projects that are explicitly comparing trends from the two programs, trying to keep all the modeling consistent across the two programs and look at how different those trends are and how they differ spatially, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, absolutely. We're already kind of poking away at what's causing some differences that we do see in those two approaches to estimating trends. And I think going forward, again, this integration, this data integration framework that we're trying to, this collaborative data integration framework that we're trying to establish with the BBS to grow, to help foster with the strategic plan, will almost certainly lend itself to, at the very least, a kind of habitat or a covariate based model moving forward.
I think related to that is that, eBird is testing the idea that you don't really need these repeated surveys in the same place to get accurate trends. And it seems like the BBS is the best check on that. And so it seems like that's worth a really detailed test of whether that's going to work long term.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the kinds of questions that we've been, that are the first ones that we've been sort of exploring. We've got a student here at Carleton University who's been working with everyone at eBird and we've been collaborating on some explicit comparisons of those trends. And yeah, and so absolutely, I agree. So those are some of the key questions, just what level of repeated sampling is necessary and yeah,
or even helpful.
Yeah,
just being helpful.
Yeah.
Related question, I think, Adam, we may have talked about this a little bit, is more look at the annual indices and maybe less at the long-term trends. And the North American waterfowl surveys have done a lot with annual trends, and there's so much importance there with the ponds and the precipitation and that affecting waterfowl productivity. And my sense is that's affecting a lot of the other non-waterfowl birds as well. And I'm not sure if anybody's really looked at annual indices from BBS and compared that with precipitation or ponds or other estimates of how much water's out there. Do you know of work being done in that area?
Yeah, there certainly is some neat work. Scott Wilson and a couple of us put a paper out a few years ago looking at lark buntings and in the prairies, showing some really neat annual fluctuations that depended on the moisture conditions in the southern part of the range in the spring, and whether they just sort of short stopping in their migration based on local moisture conditions. And so, but more conceptually, I think the framework in which we're estimating that John Sauer and Bill Link have designed some of the hierarchical Bayesian models, and it's some of our more recent models, which will come out. You've heard me probably talk a little bit about GAM models, these smoothing based models. That modeling framework lends itself really well to generating estimates of trajectories, population trajectories. The trends themselves are actually derived from the population trajectories. So the trajectories are actually a more fundamental estimate from those models. And the the sharing of information in time, the sort of temporal component of that model, is a really interesting feature in the model that is more or less important in terms of what you see in the end result, the final estimates. And then there's some really interesting thinking to do about how we generate those population trajectories, because for some species, those annual fluctuations are really important. For others, the annual fluctuations that we see in the data are largely a function of sampling noise, and probably not terribly ecologically relevant.
Oh yeah, if you could separate those two out, you've done great.
Yeah, exactly. but it's super cool stuff, and there are already some people who've been thinking about those annual fluctuations in the context of the BBS for sure.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I should know the answer to this question, but you did mention that you and John use different methodologies when you analyze the data. So Adam, when you analyze the BBS data, do you just do it for Canada, or do you use your method on the entire suite of routes, and vice versa for John?
Yeah, and so we both are using the entire data set, more or less. There's some fiddly differences, but they're really not terribly relevant. We both analyze the entire data set. We are producing estimates from different models right now, and I have a paper that will be coming out in Condor hopefully really soon, and I can share I probably have shared the preprint with you. But those estimates that we produce are derived from a model that uses the entire data set. So we produce estimates for the continent, as well as the US and Canada and all the states and provinces and all of the strata, et cetera, et cetera. We have not in the past traditionally posted those estimates on our website. We have only produced estimates for Canada on our website. We've been recently rethinking the wisdom of that, because it's confusing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
So one other quick question in terms of the actions that will maybe be implemented sooner rather than later. And this is, I guess it's relevant to Canada too, but certainly for the US, the providing or looking at the stop level coordinates and really making sure that those are accurate. Is that something that's in the near future? I know a lot of modelers would like to have better resolution on the stop level data.
Yeah, for sure. So Canada, I think, might have a better handle on the stop locations than the US does. I think partially because we have less routes, less points to manage, but we have started, and also because Marianne's, started work on that when she my predecessor, when she started working as a BBS coordinator for Canada. It's in the action plan, definitely, like the specific action. I don't remember where it is exactly. It's under, I think it's under the first goal, under the first objective. So really it's up there.
And I should add as well too, I completely glossed over this, but everything I was talking about assumes that we have stop level information and that our modeling approach will be occurring at that scale, the stop level scale. Yeah.
Adam, your presentation raised a lot more questions than it answered. Of course, it's a presentation with a strategic plan, so it doesn't provide the detail. But I'm still puzzled. I could imagine how the BBS could contribute to eBird. And I do that every year by exporting my data on eBird. I have more difficulty to understand how the other program could contribute to eBird. So is there a change of paradigms in BBS where we'll slowly abandon the routes and more concentrate on point counts, which could be a common ground to merge database from different programs? Because I don't understand how it could be the other way around. Other program contributing to BBS and not the other way around.
Interesting. So thanks, Bruno. Great question. And so to start off with, no, the standard traditional BBS 50 stop route will remain. And again, something I kind of glossed over, my fault, because this is really key in the plan, is that the strength of the BBS is the long-term time series, and that long-term time series is critical. I hesitate to use the word sacrosanct, but it's really that's critical. And so moving forward, I think that protocol will remain. And so what we're thinking about is, and this is where I was trying to get at, so this is a strategic plan for the BBS, but the whole plan is based on collaborations moving forward. And so what we're really talking about is an integration of efforts and of modeling processes where different programs are contributing to a larger goal, but all of those programs are contributing into something that is not the BBS as we think of it right now. That is a larger process, and how those partnerships are going to play out moving forward, how things are going to look on the surface, the official data sharing agreements and the field collaborations, et cetera, that is all something that's well beyond my pay grade. And I really hope to help figure out some of that stuff. But those are complex things that are going to work themselves out. This is a plan about the BBS's role in those future collaborations.
Yeah, thanks. But how do you reconcile that with the mission and the vision? Because it seems that BBS have given them them a mission and a vision where it is the database and the program for population monitoring. And what you've given me as an answer is a bit different, where it's more of a joint venture and it's more collaborative. So, which is more networking and a lot more less the big guys and the friends, and more friends together trying to solve the questions. I don't know if I'm clear, but I see a discrepancy between the mission and the vision you presented and the answer you've given me.
Yeah, I hear you. That's an interesting perspective on it. I think one of the challenges to clarifying those relative roles right now is that this is a vision for the future, and we don't know exactly how those collaborations are going to work out, and nominally what is the BBS going to be in the future? Is it going to be a CWS, USGS, Canabio maybe partnership, or is it going to become something broader, more synthetic, more collaborative in and of itself? I think, and I don't think I'm the only one in this, I know I'm not, in this world, that the real strength of the BBS is that it's about trends. It's a survey designed to look at changes over time. And that design aspect of the program I think is one of the unique things that the BBS brings to, well, certainly to land bird monitoring at a scale that is continental, and the scale at which we probably need to be thinking. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, I hear you. There's a, it's a plan from the BBS that's about collaborating in the future. And so it's a unilateral plan for collaboration.
Okay, so the transformation of the BBS into something else is part of the plan. Maybe. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I saw a recent publication contrasting IMBCR and BBS results, and it was kind of disappointing because it's a pretty sparse part of the country for BBS data, and they didn't talk about sample size or anything like that. I wonder if there's other collaborations already underway looking at the ability to combine the data, or are they really giving us different results? And how confident are you in trying to come up with a combined result just for those two surveys in the Midwest, Rocky Mountain region?
Yeah, so I'm not immediately familiar with that specific work. It is, yeah. Anyways, I'm not super familiar with that work. So I think there are the thing is about integrating across different data sets. There are there are certainly modeling relevant aspects of that process where we can design a model that is sharing information on the right suite of parameters, or we can find out in the future that each of those programs is sampling a different component of the landscape, and so that sharing information on the the change parameter doesn't actually make sense. They're sampling different components of the landscape that might have different population trends on them, and so maybe the that kind of integration is not actually the way to do it. We need to integrate on a different level, a higher level that assigns some trends to this component of the landscape and some trends to this component of the landscape, and then averages. Obviously, it would be more complex than that, but averages those two signals of population change in a more independent way. And so there's all kinds of ways to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Niven and I spent quite a long time analyzing trends through Christmas bird count data with the hope that we could integrate that with BBS some way. And integration seemed like totally the wrong answer after we did all that work looking at CBC trends, because there's definitely huge issues with integrating those two databases.
Yeah.
It's Pete Blanchard here. I just wondered about sort of whether you're gradually going to move into the breeding season for species that have always been monitored in other seasons. And I'm thinking, for example, of, say, migration monitoring of shorebirds. Would you see that either through BBS or collaboration with other breeding surveys that you would hope to get a breeding season analog that you could compare and maybe improve on what is there for migration surveys?
Yeah, well, that's certainly, I mean, we from the sampling and analytical team, one of the first things we did was to sit down and say, so what are the gaps? Well, in fact, the whole team talked about this lots during the first initial meeting. And we absolutely talked about the kind of the seasonal gaps and the taxonomic gaps in the BBS. And so those are definitely on everyone's radar. They are more complicated. And so right now in this plan, we've sort of said, okay, well, look, let's fill the geographic gaps during the breeding season. And then we'll kind of get to that. We're also, on that same sort of seasonal gap, there is some interactions with the geographic gaps, of course, because as soon as you get down into, as soon as you extend a little further south, then the notion of a breeding season starts to kind of fall apart, and so it's already it's on our radar for sure, but it's not one of the explicit goals that we've set for ourselves in the next 5 to 10 years. Though I do absolutely think that it's one of the as we move forward with the integration and the deeper integration of particularly programs like eBird, the eBird is going to provide this wonderful little hub where you know, where it's a year-round program, and so the migration programs are, you know, easier to integrate. The breeding season programs are easier to integrate, and the wintering programs could be integrated. And so, you know, going forward, this is, you know, it's all part of the same thing, part of the same process. So that I think there's going to be some efficiencies in this integration process that will carry us towards filling the rest of those gaps.
And to the question of Peter, I thought you were going to talk about the boreal monitoring strategy as a way to solve or to provide some data about the shorebirds in the breeding ground. So do you see the boreal monitoring strategy and all the efforts of that we will deploy in Canada to fill the gap in the boreal, integrating with the BBS or the other way, or the other way around? I don't know.
Yes. Yo, absolutely. Sorry, and you're right. I probably didn't during my presentation mention the boreal monitoring strategy in name, but that was what I was referring to when I talked about the work that CWS has been doing in the boreal. It's all based on it's all under the umbrella of that boreal monitoring strategy. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, in terms of some of the boreal breeding shorebirds, then absolutely there's a clear benefit to our understanding of shorebird population trends that will come from that expansion. We have not set our sights on the Arctic yet in this context. You know, but in terms of a framework for integrating across many different data sets and moving beyond a single strictly defined field protocol, we're sort of setting ourselves up for a framework that lends itself to an eventual expansion even further north.
We've got time for one more question if there's somebody out there.
I have a fairly mundane question. I don't know if that counts, but it just has to do with the timeliness of putting out the results. It's probably in the strategic plan somewhere, I'm not sure. And that's the question of, you know, you're going to try to move back to what we used to expect was by about January of the year, you would get the trends, including the data from the previous year. And sort of in the last 5 or 10 years, that has kind of slipped off. Just wonder if that's being addressed.
Yeah, well, so that's in that's also in the action plan. That wording specifically, actually, timely and efficient posting of the data results, the raw data, and then after that the analyses. Yeah, so I mean, I can speak from CWS's perspective. I think we are working, well, we are definitely working on ways of improving efficiencies internally. So yeah, all I can say is that, yes, that's very much on our radar. I know that Adam has been the one that's dealt with that mostly. But yeah, in terms of the USGS process, I know that their data review process is quite, I mean, it took us 3-4 months to publish the plan after 4 revision steps by a variety of different people. And that's just, you know, a 5-page, in terms of text, plan. Yeah, it's a problem and they're aware. I'm not sure what they can do to improve efficiencies. I know from our end, though, I think there are definitely areas that we can improve and things that we can do.
Thank you so much, Veronica and Adam, and thanks everyone for joining us today. And I think probably I'll volunteer Veronica and Adam. Their emails are up there. If you have additional questions you'd like to fire off to them, I presume that's okay. So thank you so much to everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you at our next regularly scheduled monthly call. And we'll send out a link with a recording to this also, if you want to go back and listen to anything again. Great. Thanks, everyone.